They are making laws based on BS. You have some legislators down there who know this stuff isn't real and are playing the game for politics. And then you have some who really believe some of this propaganda.
The Alabama legislative session is not even half over.
It is. I think this week ended it at half.
Is it half?
I think it is now halfway over, thankfully.
I don't know about it because it can last till like mid-May, can't it?
Yeah, they have been going at a breakneck pace, though. They've been having extra.
So you think maybe they'll adjourn early?
Yeah, maybe early May. Maybe.
Crossing my fingers. Yeah. So Alabama Arise, like Adam works at Alabama Arise. They do great. They're I think the best nonprofit advocacy organization down in Montgomery, doing I mean, as far as I can tell, more work than anybody in this space with like half of the team. They're doing a really great job. Last week they're doing these weekly updates, and they come out on Monday. So unfortunately, this one is going to be pretty. We're going to play the most recent update. It's going to be kind of dated, but we'll update you on the things that need to be updated. But it's a really good summary in 3 minutes of where we're at with the session. So we wanted to play that for you and then expand on some of the other stuff. So Adam, let's play this from Alabama Arise.
Hello, my name is Akeisha Anderson, and I am the Policy and Advocacy Director for Alabama Arise. I am excited to be here to give you yet another legislative update. Last week marked the 4th week of the 2024 legislative session. Thus, we are now entering into the 5th week of legislative session. By the end of this week, the legislature will officially be halfway through their session, which means that they could, if they decide, be slated to end this year's legislative session much earlier than the last day that they are constitutionally allowed to meet, which is May 20th. Last week, quite a bit happened. For starters, the CHOOSE Act, which threatens public education funding, passed out of the House. 2 IVF bills designed to put a Band-Aid on the Alabama Supreme Court's decision passed as well, 1 out of each chamber. The dangerous absentee ballot bill, SB 1, passed out of committee in the House. And last week also, the alarming child labor bill, which removes protections designed to ensure that 14 and 15-year-olds who work also perform well in school, was in committee in the House. This bill, however, was carried over and is expected to be heard in committee again this week. Also in committee this week will be the Anti-Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bill, SB 129, another IVF bill, SB 325, several voting rights bills, including one that allows people to easily update their address after voting, that's HB 86, one that prohibits political parties from disqualifying candidates from the ballot due to who they receive contributions from, that's HB 186, and also HB 218, which is a bill to allow improperly marked provisional and absentee ballots to be cured. Also in committee this week is HB 238, which will remove the sales tax off of diapers, baby supplies, maternity clothing, and women's hygiene products. HB 227, which would reform our ethics laws, is also in committee this week. So is SB 4, which would prohibit most flags from being flown on public property. And lastly, HB 32 will be in committee this week. HB 32 is one of Arise's priority bills, and this will amend our felony murder rule to make it less broad and more aligned with the way that most states apply this unique legal provision. HB 32 will also have a public hearing on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m., and I myself will be testifying in support of the bill alongside some of our friends from Arise. Although not listed on the legislature's website at the time of this recording, I also anticipate that the Senate will take up both gaming and the CHOOSE Act in committees this week. In fact, I would actually be surprised if they don't take up both or either of these issues. I mentioned earlier that at the end of this week, the legislature will have used half of their allocated meeting days for this session. Yet also worth noting is that next week, the legislature will be going on a 1-week break for in-district legislative meetings with constituents. Thus, if there is anything that you would like to meet with your legislators about, please take advantage of the fact that they will be in district rather than at the State House next week. I anticipate that next week's update will be relatively short, but I will be sure to keep you posted on what happens during this week at the legislature. Take care.
AlabamaArise.org, I think, is the website if you want to get those.
ALArise.org.
Okay, ALArise.org if you want to get those updates yourself. It's always really good. They've got a lot of good stuff, and really good analysis.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about there.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot.
So obviously the Choose Act passed.
Right.
The
It has been
IVF,
signed.
yeah, the IVF bill passed, but there are already like pro-life groups that are gearing up, is my understanding, to oppose this bill, to file a lawsuit against it, because and it makes sense if you actually genuinely believe that life begins at conception, and that is constitutionally where the law is in Alabama. The Alabama constitutionally says life begins at conception. Like, that's the Constitution. And so what this IVF bill does is it immunizes IVF clinics from murder under the Alabama Constitution. And I'm not totally convinced, and neither are, IVF proponents, which is why a lot of people think we need a constitutional amendment, and also neither are some pro-life groups which are convinced that this is murder, that IVF, when they destroy these embryos, that it's committing murder. And so what this IVF does is it basically immunizes IVF clinics from murder under Alabama law, and I'm not sure that you can do that without a constitutional amendment. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there, and we'll keep you up to date on it. But absolutely, Looney Tunes, fascist and theocratic kind of stuff going on in the state of Alabama regarding, women's reproductive health.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
But those were the only two bills that passed last week.
No. There was more. There was more? Yeah.
Did the absentee voting bill pass? Was that one of them? Okay.
I do. Yes, SB 1, and that is a bill we've covered extensively on the show both this year and last year, because they tried to do it last year. They failed. They were successful this year. It really cracks down on absentee voting rights, specifically helping people. So if you if you serve in a union role, for example, you're a union organizer, you're a political coordinator for your local, like I am, and you want to get out the vote among your membership, this bill could criminalize you if you are assisting folks in voting absentee. There was a lot of concerns from the disability community, folks who often, may require some assistance and typically require voting absentee. So, and they justified this for quote unquote voter fraud, which is basically non-existent. There's like a handful of cases in Alabama over the last several years, and I say a handful. And in many of those cases, it was Republicans, right? So, I mean, it is just bizarro. They are making laws based on BS, like stuff that is just not real. And so you have some legislators down there who know this stuff isn't real and are playing the game for politics. And then you have some who are like high on their own supply and really believe some of this propaganda and believe some of this nonsense. And, so you've got like the cynical actors, you've got the just true dyed-in-the-wool reactionaries. But one of the bills that was passed was the SB 129, the DEI bill, which is really an attack on so many folks. It's an attack on diversity, equity, inclusion. It's an attack on gay folks. It's an attack on trans folks. Like, there's so much language in the bill.
Was that bill the one that expanded Don't Say Gay to 12th grade?
I am not sure if it did. I know that it expanded. It kind of also included the divisive concepts component to this. And so, yeah, it's very scary. And there's even talks that, like, as a consequence, could college football be banned in Alabama because the NCAA has diversity, equity, inclusion programs. And, will that continue to be allowed in Alabama. We have universities with diversity, equity, inclusion programs, cities, in fact. Even Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle, who I disagree with on about 99% of things, even he came out and said, listen, y'all, this is kind of crazy. Like, to ban DEI, it's ridiculous. And it's not that it's based on anything real. I mean, this is all just garbage. This divisive concepts component to it is potentially criminalizing the truthful teaching of history in our classrooms. So if you're teaching a diverse curriculum from diverse authors as an English teacher, or if you're a history teacher teaching the truth about Jim Crow and slavery, you're putting yourself at risk in the state of Alabama, and it's just wild. And we'll talk more. You've got a clip from an Oklahoma politician later that really ties into this conversation, because it's happening in other states as well, unfortunately. But there was more.
Well, a couple of things that she didn't mention was the $10 tax on every prescription. That's
and we're still trying to find the details on that.
Yeah, so
really.
I listened to the session that it was introduced in, and apparently it's like targeting pharmacy benefit managers, which are these like middleman corporations that are apparently underpaying pharmacists. And so that is actually who would, by statute, incur the law, but then, so it incur the tax, but it is a tax. And, the thinking is that this would probably be passed on to the consumer.
I mean, and if that happened, wow, that would be a pretty steep tax for a lot of people, because a lot of people have multiple prescriptions every month, right? And you start adding that up together. It's pretty bad. I do want to mention one good thing, which is there is thankfully more conversations around public transit. There is a bill out there that would fund the Public Transportation Trust Fund. Let's see, I believe that's HB 91. But there's also some talks about maybe if the gambling bill gets passed, there could be some money set aside for transit in that. The gambling has passed the House, but it's in the Senate now, and it has been transformed, and it does not include sports betting anymore.
Arthur Orr, it was reported, is predicting that the Senate will kill it. So
it's not looking super promising if you're a fan of the gambling. It's. The yearly debate that they have, where they can't get it all together, and they can't satisfy the people who want casinos, the people who want the lottery, the people who want sports betting, the people who argue over who should have the casinos and where they should be. And then there's all the special interests behind the scenes that are, like Alpha Insurance, aka the Farmers Federation, has been going hard against this. They literally sent stuff to every customer that they have in the state. About it, opposing any form of gaming. What that has to do with farmers is anyone's guess, but
so the Don't Say Gay expansion to 12th grade is a separate bill, which is good, because that's absolutely terrible. And then there's also another bill that would mandate abstinence only education, and I'm not sure if that's exactly the law of the land right now, but I think it's probably, I don't know, maybe a looser version of abstinence only, but abstinence only is just a terrible sex education.
And I heard that there was some really just disgusting behavior from the proponents of that in the committee hearing. They were accusing people of being groomers and just really uncalled for stuff. Creeps from the Eagle Forum and other groups like that.
I need to pull that. Need to pull that clip.
I know we're running out of time here, but there's so much to talk about with Alabama's legislature. Really encourage folks. Next week is the spring break where they're in district. So please call, email, text, and if possible, request a meeting with your state senator, your state representative. Next week's a good time to get on.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.